News Radio 1400 KTEM. Good Tuesday evening. It's Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Means it's time for the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. I'm Jamie Garrett, play-by-play voice for the Temple Wildcats. And we'll have a special guest with us in segment 2 today. We'll talk to Chad President, quarterback for the Temple Wildcats. And Chad getting ready to go join the Baylor Bears here pretty soon. So we'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2 today. Here with head coach Mike Spradlin. And Coach, got a chance. I mean, this is what it all comes down to. You know, not to be cliche or hokey about it, but I mean, this is why you play the game. Give yourself a shot at a district championship, first of 2 championships you hope to win this year.
Well, Jamie, I think it's you're exactly right. You do play the game to get in big games, and I've always liked the fact that big guys playing big games, and that's what we've challenged our team to do. I think if you just set up a script for this year, it's an interesting one, and to go into this game, both of us undefeated, which I thought possibly you're talking about a team that really is a defending district champs in their district. I mean, theoretically, they played the Mainers last year and people like that and won that district. So big ball game at Wildcat. Our last we could get into a playoff situation at Wildcat Stadium this year, but theoretically, you have to look at this and say it's possibly your last home game for our seniors. Big game, and it should be a lot of fun. We're both in. We're both in the playoffs. Both of our seedings are set. Elgin's going to be the number 1 small school seed, and we're the number 1 big school seed. So go football on it, go football riding on it, district championship riding on it. Should be a lot of fun. And
I think maybe after the 4th week of the season, not many people would have expected Elgin to be here, given that they were 1-3. But they played some tough games. Obviously, we were talking earlier, but they obviously have gotten better too.
They have, and there's 2 things I think factor into that is the schedule they played. I mean, you and I've talked about that. We think we've played a tough non-district schedule. I mean, Round Rock High School now in several polls is ranked in the top 10. We're the only defeat they've experienced this year, and they won their district. So then you look at the Westlake thing and losing that game by 1 point. I think, and in Elgin, if you look at their non-district, they were Vista Ridge, which has been a ranked team all year. They played College Station, which has been a ranked team all year, is going to finish second in that district. They played Bryan for the district championship. And then they also played Leander Vandergrift, who's been a state-ranked team. So they've come out of that. New coach, Jim Garfield, who I've known for a while. Jim was at Wichita Falls Rider when I was at Cooper, and we played each other. Jim's a great coach, does a good job, and you can see they've gained confidence as they've gone, and they've run off a undefeated district. They're 5-0, we're 5-0, and here we go. And able to score some points. They scored 47 last week against Waco, a team that played really well against Temple the week prior. So they are a team that can score some points defensively. They are, middle of the pack, right there in the middle. Gotten better, though. They've gotten better as they've gone through. It's kind of what you were talking about just a minute ago. Everything about them, you see improvement week to week. And so that's something that we've noticed. And we have had, for once, we've had a chance to watch them. They have – district scheduling is an interesting thing. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, but they literally have followed us every week. We played they were open the first week. Mm-hmm. So when we played University, then they played University. When we played whoever we played, Manor, they played Manor. When we played Conley, they played Conley. So it kind of worked that way. And then, of course, they caught Waco last week. We've now at least had an opportunity to watch them for a couple weeks. And it's really our first opportunity to see them was last week. So, we've tried, we're preparing. We've had a great week of practice. We had a great week, a great open date last week. So we're excited and raring to go, ready to get back on the field and play. Boy, they have seen every single district snap of the Temple Wildcats. They are not going to be surprised by anything that comes out Friday night. So really, it comes down to the X's and O's and the Jims and Joes. It does. The Jimmys and Joes are the ones that matter. Yeah, absolutely, and certainly a fantastic senior class, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You've got some returning talent there, certainly, especially on the offensive line and receivers. But pretty special players playing what could be their final game Friday night at Wildcat Stadium. One of which we'll talk to later. The other of which I don't think I've ever heard speak. So a little bit different between somebody like Jeff Carr and Chad President. Jeff's quiet. There's no doubt about it, but he's not quiet on the field. There's no question about that. And it is a this has been a great ride for me, Jamie. I mean, when I look at, here we are in week 10 or week 11, I guess, of our 4 years down the road, you always look at things and you say, okay, well, when I go to a new place and I'm not going to get into this about me, but I've kind of had a history as a coach of being involved in what I call, turnarounds. And it's kind of been something that I've been fortunate enough or gravitated towards. And when you look at it, you always look at that 4 years, that first group you get. And of course, our seniors this year were our first freshman group. And so here we are 4 years later, and opportunity to play for a second consecutive district championship, an opportunity to move on into the playoffs, and which we are going to do next week at Bobcat Stadium in San Marcos. And so, it's just a lot of things, a lot of fun, been a great group. I love these guys. And here we are in our third season, so to speak. We're going to finish the second season up and move on into the third season. I thought the open date was a great opportunity for us to rest up. I've never felt quite like I feel right now. At this point in the season. Usually at this point in the season, you've been through the grind. And, to have that open date was really an interesting thing. We're recharged and ready to go and excited about playing.
And certainly Conley with an open date this week, but they're not heading into the playoffs. That would be an awesome situation as well, get that final bye week.
We kind of focused on us Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday we did start to focus a little bit on Elgin, kind of get that in their head, going into the weekend a little bit. And we spent some time. We do this anyway. It's not like we spent more time. Spent some time in the weight room, and focused on getting better fundamentally. And I thought our guys responded well to that. When you look at it, we played Friday night against Waco 2 weeks ago. Then we gave them Saturday and Sunday off. Then Monday pretty much was a day off from a standpoint of football. We lifted and watched some film. And then we gave them, we lifted again the following Friday, and then they had another Saturday. So they've had, that's the first time in a while they had 4 days in about a span of about 12 there where they were off. And so what we found was when we came back out Monday of this week, our kids were supercharged and ready to go, and I think they're hungry to play again.
And certainly the last time the Wildcats went a Friday night without completing a football game was a game against Bryan, and it was kind of that the comparison of the Wildcat you take out of the cage, you don't feed it, and you put it back in the cage. Was there any temptation at all to get everybody on the bus and go to a high school stadium, get everybody suited up, and just get back on the bus after 20 minutes?
No, not really, but that might have been an interesting thought, Jamie. I do think we're hungry. I think anytime you get into this mode of, we practice to play. It is what it is. Our kids love showtime. And I think when you miss one of those, I think your anticipation and your hunger to play again, thrives. I really do. And that's what, I've said it before. If you've got a big game, then you should have big time players. And I think we do. I think they do. I'm going to be honest with you, Jamie. I think Elgin's a really good football team. And this isn't going to be something that, we're both going into the playoffs on a roll, and I think we've got our hands full, but I don't mean that in a way that, so do they, so I think that's, that's what I'm trying to say. Theoretically you could look and say, well, it's Baylor, Oklahoma. It's Alabama, Auburn. Is it that got that kind of a connotation in a rivalry standpoint? Maybe not. But when you look at it in terms of where we're both at in our seasons, it does. This is a big game. And I don't mean that we're both going to play again next week. So you don't necessarily toss all your eggs out there, but we will when kickoff comes Friday night.
Yeah, play to win, certainly. But got to ask Chad presidents, we'll have them in here in a little bit, and I'd rather ask the coach and get it straight from the horse's mouth, yes, so to speak. Scary moment in that game for Temple fans against Waco. He went down. He was able to come back in and finish the game, just taking a knee a couple of times in the final drive, running out clock. But Chad's had the extra week now, and he's been through all the tests and everything. Is he practicing? What's his standpoint at this point in time?
He is practicing, Jamie. We did go ahead and kind of, we're just basically rehabbing Chad at this point to get him ready to play. He's going to play. And so we kind of tried to take the open date to give him a chance he's got a little swelling. So we're trying to work through that in the rehab process. But he's been practicing now this week, practiced yesterday, Monday. And quite frankly, if you didn't know he'd been hurt, he didn't look hurt. So but we've also got to prepare him moving forward, and Cole's gotten a bunch of reps now. And so we'll just kind of, we really are literally on the evaluation day-to-day basis. That's where we're at with Chad. We expect him to be able to play. We're certain that he's going to be able to do that, in the playoff game, and relatively certain this week. I'm going to hold an out reservation in that I want to continue to make those decisions as we go through the week. But I will tell you that based on what I've I've seen so far, he appears to be a guy that's getting himself ready to play.
And you look back to games like Harker Heights and University and the games you've had the opportunity to get Cole Martin out there and get serious game time reps against 1 and 2 defenses, well, really a lot of ones, especially early in halves when he's gotten out there. So that combined, with his overall role in the offense anyway and special teams and everything, he's a guy that knows the game and get out there and play. Huge.
I mean, and we do believe in Cole. Our kids believe in Cole. Cole's a great kid. I mean, he's highly intelligent. He's a tremendous competitor. And he has had an opportunity to go out and run our offense with those guys. And, I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, it's not like Cole's fixing to run out there and play some significant playing time for the first time this season. I mean, he's had significant – I think I figured up Cole's played almost 6 quarters of this season. And that's a big – I mean, that's a game and a half. For a backup quarterback, that's quite a bit, Jamie. And it's done well in that. Completed some touchdown passes, run the ball effectively. He's had a great week of practice. And so, if anything, it just continues to develop us in our depth and things like that. So we'll just, like I said, we're going to, right now, the official status is we're day-to-day with Chad. We're preparing with him, and we're preparing without him. So I don't know how else to put it, is that we'll make those decisions as we get later on in the week.
And certainly for Elgin, they're preparing for number 10. They're preparing for number 10 out there.
And Jamie, I want to say that I'm not trying to play, the proverbial, I know what's going to happen and I don't want them to know. And we really are evaluating Chad on a day-to-day basis. And I want our listeners to know that. I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not. He may very well be ready to go Friday night. If he is, we're going to play him.
Yeah, and certainly with the district championship on the line, there's a lot that goes into that. But knowing that you're going to play the following week, knowing that part of things is sewn up, does that make a decision for you easier or harder?
Well, maybe a little of both. It certainly factors into I'll be honest with you. At this point, I feel like the onus is on me, and that's a little bit disconcerting for me. I mean, from a standpoint, because I've got to take care of him and our football team. And I'll be honest with you, Jamie, I mean, I'm much more interested in our players' well-being than I am winning a football game. So that's where my head's at right now. I want to make sure that when he goes back out there, he's ready to go. And I've got that assurance at this point from the doctors. But, my point is that we're also going to do the smart thing for him and for our football team. So to answer your question, it does factor into it. I mean, the fact that we are playing again next week, I think it has to. So we'll just see where we're at, see where we go. It's certainly no. We think Elgin's a quality opponent. We want him there if he can, but we'll decide that as we go through the week.
So nobody in the green and gold's called and said, "Hey, can you go ahead and just sit him this Friday night?"
No, not at all. Those guys are awesome. I mean, I can't say enough about Coach Browse and his staff and what they've meant to us and what he's meant to me in my life, and then obviously how they've handled Chad. I mean, they couldn't be more professional. I think they see what they've got in him, an ambassador for Baylor University, and that's what he'll be, and a great athlete as well.
We'll talk to Chad President coming up here in just a couple of minutes, and at 6:30 tonight, it'll be the UMHB Coaches Show as UMHB coming off another huge win on Saturday. So that's coming up at 6:30. We'll take a break, come back, talk with Chad President next, and that's on News Radio 1400 KTEM. News Radio 1400 KTEM, Jamie Garrett back with Mike Spradlin, head coach for the Temple Wildcats, as we get into the Temple High School Football Coaches Show and have a chance now to talk with a young man that a year from now will be wearing the green and gold up at Baylor, having been recruited, made that commitment to Baylor, and has overcome a significant injury early last year and has come back this year to play well and coach. I really get the feeling with each game that comes along, kind of getting into the groove a little bit more, whether it's in the running game or finding connections with guys like Freeman and Curtis, and especially Ty Hannon. He's been a great addition, I would say, because he wasn't a starter last year necessarily. But Chad President has played fantastic football and is a big reason why Temple's got a chance to win that district championship Friday night.
No question, Jamie. And quite frankly, Chad will be wearing that green and gold here in about 2.5 months.
That's right.
So he's going to graduate in December. But I mean, I thought he was a great guy to have on today because, Chad's one of those senior class guys for me that was my first class here, when he was a freshman. And of course our group of seniors I've now had 4 years, and Chad's done a great job of being a leader in that group. We have other guys that have done that as well, but obviously Chad's been kind of a face of our program. I'm real proud of him, and I'm proud of how he's handled that and the way he's matured. AB student on track to graduate here in December, doing an awesome job playing quarterback for us and leading our football team. So I thought here we are going into, district championship week as well as, going into playoffs next week. And I just thought what a great representative to me of where we've come at Temple High School in 4 years, and it started with that group. They were successful as freshmen. I mean, they were a 7-3 football team that was actually a 7-1 football team until we moved Chad up to the varsity. Chad's the only varsity football player as a freshman I've ever had in a 5A, 6A situation. So he actually didn't just come up and be a receiver. He came up and played some receiver, played in the playoff game, all that stuff. So anyway, I know that's a lot said about a young man that I appreciate more than he'll ever know, and I love him, and I love him for who he is, not for what he's done. But I love what he's done as well, and he's passionate. He's a great leader. He's a great ambassador for our program. Will continue to be a great ambassador at Baylor University. And
certainly that coming up pretty quick. And Chad, making that move up to Baylor in the spring for spring football certainly gives you an edge going into the fall. How long has that been the plan? Has that been the plan since day one, since Baylor made that first call, and you made that decision to go to Baylor? Has that been the plan all along?
The plan came after a couple of weeks after I committed, and I talked with my parents, and they agreed with it, and Coach highly suggested it, and we made it happen.
Was there any hesitation at all, given the, part of being a senior, at least from what I remember, was my last 9 weeks, I had history with a football coach. I had 135% in there. I had yearbook, which I did nothing on because I was in there just to do more newspaper work because I was the editor of the newspaper, which was my third period class. And because it was block scheduling, a different kind of scheduling, we only had 4 classes a day. My last class was office aide. So I didn't get much accomplished that in the last 9 weeks of high school. You're not going to miss much in the academic world, but certainly going to miss prom. I mean, you can always make that trip back down, but that's not a guarantee. Was that something that you had to reconcile with?
Yeah, and another year of playing basketball too. It was a tough decision, but you got to think about your future at some point.
Oh, absolutely, and your future clearly with football in your future, and looking at what Baylor's been able to do. I mean, you made this commitment, and Baylor was still a rising program, but was kind of an afterthought. Now they're this national juggernaut that's in the national championship picture, and they've got just as good a shot as anybody else at making that Final Four this year. And if they do, you'll be a part of the program officially then. So that's got to be exciting for you. I mean, they've changed quite a bit and have stuck with you all along, so you're in a great spot right now.
Yeah, it is amazing. They're doing their thing up there, and I just can't wait to get up there and be a part of it.
And when you look back your freshman year and playing behind a great quarterback, now going to be a Big 12 foe for you, which is kind of funny in a way. But looking back at that time as a receiver, certainly you excelled there and built your reputation there. Before you even took a snap as a quarterback, you had scholarship offers to play quarterback. Is that the plan, or do you see yourself, because of the quarterback lineage they've developed there and the guys they've already got there, do you see yourself making a move to play receiver at what's now considered wide receiver U?
No, I think I'll play quarterback up there, unless they want to move me. I don't have a problem with it. I just want to be on the field and, play some football.
Playing some football wherever you can. And certainly, it goes to say a lot about you and your love for the game, number one, and your willingness to put the team above everybody else, because you, as a freshman or sophomore, you're thinking basketball or football, both those things still clearly in your crosshairs. But you made that commitment to football now, and it shows leadership to go out there and play a position you're not necessarily familiar with just to get on the field. And I would imagine that time as a wide receiver has certainly helped you as the quarterback to know what's going through the receiver's mind a little bit more.
Yeah, timing of routes and how far the route is going to be. Just being on the same page as the quarterback. And then when you move the quarterback, you got to teach those young receivers, how you want them to run their route, so everybody can just be on the same page.
You ever tempted to get over the sideline, kind of get into that receiver's huddle and offer up some advice about how you would have done it?
No, I just tell them how I want the route run, and they go out there and they execute.
Let's talk a little bit about on the sidelines. I know it's not something that people talk about a lot, but when you're over there on the sidelines, obviously Coach Spradlin, he's doing a lot of the play calling this year and running that side of things. But when you step off the field, who are the guys, maybe beyond Coach Spradlin that kind of guide you over there and teach you as a quarterback?
When I come off the sideline, I get the headset, and Coach McGehee, the quarterback coach, he sits up in the booth, and I just talk to him, and then after that, I just, talk to the receiver coaches that are on the field, and I just talk to my guys and tell them to keep up the good work.
You made that commitment early on as a wide receiver just to get that varsity playing time and to help the team out, and obviously excelled there. Given the points that Temple was able to put up even before you became quarterback. But when you look at this year, you've really had to do many different things to win football games, and a lot of times that's not included airing the ball out. I mean, there's been games where you've had less than 10 pass attempts. You've made up for it on the ground with rushing, and it's not like you've struggled necessarily. It just wasn't in the game plan, in the cards for that particular night. Is there any part of you in the back of your mind that thinks after a game like that, man, so-and-so, a commitment for so-and-so went out and threw for 400 yards this week, and here I am making 8 pass attempts. Does that ever cross your mind? I mean, even on a Sunday afternoon?
No, it doesn't, because, I can do 2 things. I can throw and run, and, most of the guys can't do that, and, I'm just blessed that I can do that, and whatever I can do to help this team win, that's what I'm going to do.
Jamie, I think an interesting thing about Chad, and I really hadn't thought about this, but it occurred to me at one point. As a starter, and by the way, Chad was always going to be a quarterback here. He was not a receiver that we made a quarterback. He came through the system. He was our 9th grade quarterback. He was a quarterback when he was a 7th and 8th grader. So he was a guy that was a converted receiver, not the opposite. We didn't make a quarterback out of a receiver. We made a receiver out of a quarterback. And of course, I think Chad could do anything. He wants to play running back, plays free safety, whatever he wants to do. But I think an interesting stat for Chad, and he may not even have thought about this, but as a starting quarterback at Temple High School, and I'm not going to count the Southlake game a year ago because he only played 1 play, but as a starting quarterback right now at Temple High School, Chad's lost 1 game, and it was 1-point loss to Westlake this year. And so when you look at that, I think that's something like 9-1 or 10-1 or something like that he's done for us. And so I think that's a huge accomplishment when you think about that. It shows a lot about his leadership. Now, he can't do it by himself, but as a starting quarterback, he's been pretty darn successful.
And certainly that success you're hoping to carry on to the playoffs. We'll talk about that in just a minute as we're visiting with Chad, president. But let's talk Elgin. They are second in the district in interceptions, so they can go up and get the ball. What have you seen on film and what you're looking at heading into Friday night for a district championship at home against Elgin?
They play a tight coverage, cover 2, and their safeties play real low. They seem athletic, but I think our guys are more athletic than they are and more talented than they are. We just got to go out there and execute and catch some balls, and I just got to put it up there and put it in the right spot.
Put it in the right spot, and certainly, coming off of the bye week now, it's giving you a chance to really take a look at things, and I guess it kind of evens the playing field, levels the playing field a little bit when, Coach Bradlin talked a couple of weeks ago about Elgin following Temple in each of their games this year, so getting to look at Temple game film each week. They've seen just about every play, every pass, every run, so it's not about surprising anybody at this point in the season. It's about going out there and executing. They know exactly what they're going to do or you're going to do, and you know what they're going to do. But talk a little bit about this being your final home game. It's for the district championship, and really when people look back 20 years from now, this is the game they talk about. This is the type of situation. This is what they remember. This is what people are going to remember. Is that something that you even allow yourself to think about, or is it just all about that 48 minutes Friday night?
Well, right now it's all about that 48 minutes. After the game, I'll think about it. That was my last home game, and we came away with the victory, and we're district champs. And then I'm just going to enjoy that night with the group of seniors that we have here, and maybe 20 years later we'll sit down at a coffee table and talk about it.
Or maybe up in the broadcast booth with Gene Pemberton still doing the games. Who knows? But we'll bring that 2014 team back. And, so you have, of course, a couple generations of Temple football in you. And so, you've been there. Obviously, you weren't alive the last time Temple won a state championship. But, this is the number 3 team in the state, according to the polls, the Temple Wildcats. As a team, do you think you're the 3rd best team in the states right now?
No, I feel like we're number 1. But you can't bring rankings to the field with you on Friday nights. You just got to go out there and win.
All that number 3 does is point a big target on your back. And for Elgin, this would be a season maker. They came into the district at, I think, 1-3 and have just reeled off win after win since then. They can go get the ball. They play the cover 2. Is there anybody up in that front 7 that gets into the backfield with regularity that can cause a mess back there, whether running the ball or throwing it?
Yeah, they got a couple guys up front that, they're kind of big, and they're athletic. You just got to hopefully make those guys miss and make them look dumb on film and execute the offense. That's all you really got to do out there.
Very nice. And after the bye week and as you get ready for Friday night, everything feeling good, you're out there practicing, doing everything, and after a bye week, is there any I don't know if it's opportunity, I guess. Is there an opportunity there to come out with a little bit of rust? Or is this an offense at this point in time that is just chomping at the bit to get out there?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we didn't play against Bryan, and we came back out and played Harker Heights out here at home, and, we kind of dominated that whole game. So I don't think there's any rust, It's just another week for us to get better, actually. So, and then we got this, and then you got the game week to install the game plan, So we're going to go out there Friday, execute to the best of our ability.
When you're playing 7th and 8th grade football, you're probably back, under the old regime, running that wing tee offense, doing stuff like that. So things have certainly changed. Back in your 8th grade year, I guess, which was the year before Coach Sprouling got here, looking at the program as a whole, was there any thought in your mind that as a senior you'd have a chance to walk out on the home field on a Friday night to win your second consecutive district championship?
I never really thought about it. I just thought about, getting into high school and, playing some football up there to the next level. But now that I think about it, it's really a blessing to play for your second district championship because not many people get to play this game anymore, So I'm going to go out there and give it all I got.
And certainly, we talked a little bit earlier about Baylor, but that kind of parallels, their rise as well, Temple's reemergence. But for Baylor, it's a whole different ballgame because everything's new there. So look forward to seeing you get up in the program. Thank you again for taking some time with us today. Chad President joining us and going for district championship number 2 this Friday night against Elgin. Thank you so much, Chad.
Thank you.
We'll take a break, come back here in just a second. Wrap things up, get ready for the UMHB Coaches Show with John Wallin and Coach Pete Fredenberg. That's coming up next on News Radio 1400 KTEM. News Radio 1400 KTEM. Jamie Garrett back with head coach Mike Spradlin, and here we've gone again going overtime here, taking some time away from UMHB. So we'll wrap things up for this week. Friday night, Elgin, 7 o'clock on KTEM and K1017, our sister station. We'll have the pregame show. We'll talk to you again, Coach, before the game, and get any last-minute updates. We've got one player we did not talk about today, and I wanted to ask real quick before we go. Quentin Smith, is he back and ready to go full strength?
Jamie, he's back, and I think you'll see him Friday night. But our plan with Quentin is, obviously he's missed about 4 games here, is just to try to work him in, get him some reps, and then get him back to where by the time we go into the playoffs. It's not about, quite frankly, we would do that if we were playing, last week. It's not a question of we know we're going to the playoffs, we're trying to save everybody. It's just the way you want to bring a kid back. You don't want to throw him in there and have him play, all 48 minutes. So, he's been released. He's once again, he's kind of a day-to-day kid. He's had good practices, and he'll get some reps Friday night.
And he and McCorkle have been huge in there. I'm going to leave you with one final stats to keep in mind. I know, Coach, you're not a stat guy, but this one will pop out at anybody. Temple is averaging 160 more yards of offense, combined offense, per game than the next closest competitor in the district. That's an offense clicking at full speed this year.
And I think we're doing that, Jamie, if I'm not mistaken, with one less game.
Yeah, one fewer game.
If you look at our total yardage right now, offensively, I think we're 1,000 more than number 2 in total yards, and that's with 9 games instead, or in this case, 8 games instead of 9. So, I think that's pretty. It says a little bit about what our guys have been able to do. So
almost 1,000 yards just in rushing ahead of the next closest in the district. Again, with one fewer game.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So
anyway,
the 3-headed monster back on the field Friday nights of Carr, Hatcher, and President. Coach, thank you for your time. UMHB Coaches Show up next on News Radio 1400 KTEM.